Hello YouTube and welcome back to Stevetown. This is episode 7. Thank you once again for all the kind words and support on the last episode. A little bit of a lighter episode today maybe. I mean by my standards anyway. I've still got plenty of stuff to show you, but yeah, maybe it's not quite as jam-packed as previous episodes. But what I do have, rest assured, is pretty cool. But yeah, let's crack on I think. So starting off under this cover, which I've still not put anything under from that I showed you last time. And the first major thing that we're going to look at today is this log flume again. As I said last time, this was built by Nitro, and he did an outstanding job. You can go back and look at the last episode if you want to see exactly what he did. But yeah, he basically built the main kind of structure, all the supports and everything, and I'll point out some more cool little details that he did as we go around. But mainly what we're going to look at today, as you can see, this area's had a little bit of an update. We've now got a little seating area here next to the drop, so you can sort of sit and watch all the logs come down. Here comes one now. But yeah, the main thing we're looking at is the station, the entrance, all this good stuff. So, as you can see, the ride has got a proper name, and it is called the Nitro Energy Splash Factory. To sort of explain a little bit what's going on here, the idea with this ride, when I was telling Nitro that I wanted a log flume, the idea was that it would be it had previously just been sort of a generic rustic log flume, and that at some point it's been retrofitted in a similar way that the Alton Towers one was. At a certain point in time, it had this Imperial Leather sponsorship, and they sort of retrofitted the ride and added in all this really like tacky theming. I kind of wanted to do a similar thing here, where it was sort of a rustic log flume at one point in time, and it's recently been retrofitted with this kind of wacky, colourful theming. And originally I actually wasn't going to do like a sponsor on it. It was just going to be that it had been rethemed to kind of, try and get the kids interested, to give it a bit of a sort of hook, a slightly more modern hook, maybe, a revitalisation. I was posting about it on Discord, and Jonty, in his infinite wisdom, was like, you've got to give it a sponsor to sort of help sell the reasoning why there would even be a refit in the first place. And I guess it justifies a little bit of the sort of expenditure of it. Although I will say, I feel like these kinds of like guttering and pipes and stuff are not exactly going to cost a fortune. But yeah, I think it was a good idea ultimately to have a sponsorship. So shout out to John T for persuading me not to be lazy. And it gave me this cool idea to honour Nitro and the work he did on the flume, to bring in this Nitro Energy logo, which he actually made after Masked Bandit built this Nitro Energy shop in Conifer Slopes. Nitro then went to work designing this Nitro Energy sort of poster, which he posted on the Pro Nation Discord. And after Jonty was like, well, it needs a sponsor, I thought, well, what better than Nitro Energy to be the sponsor? And I I nicked this little logo from the poster that he made, turned it into this little sign here. So on the entrance to the ride, we've got the Nitro Energy Splash Factory, and then it's also obviously sponsoring these blow dryers here after you've exited the ride. So that's the basic vibe. It's the Splash Factory, it's colourful, and as you can see, we've just got some very kind of basic, cheap looking themery. I'm trademarking themery as a word. And then there's just some remnants of like the old kind of, there's a log from when it had log flume theming in the olden times. And as you go through the queue here, I should point out as well that Nitro made this really nice kind of rustic cattle pen fencing as well. Quite happy to put that in. I think it adds really nicely to this kind of like the old and the new, where you've got this kind of like rustic fencing around, and then you've just got these random like cogs and pipes and stuff in the queue path, to where they've just tried to inject a bit of theming into the whole situation. And then again, we've just got this little kind of rustic shade cover here, which has been painted blue to match the new theme. And then coming up into the station itself, the idea here was, initially I was going to make the station kind of in a sort of more rustic style, similar to with that queue path. I was going to do kind of like a rustic building which had been sort of repainted. But then I was looking at Coalcracker for references, and I saw the Coalcracker station, which has got this really cool support structure holding the roof up, and I was like, well, now I just really want to build that. So we've ended up with this slightly different kind of thing, which is just this kind of really nice, it's fairly simple support structure, but yeah, I don't know, I think it's really nice, and I love having this kind of, I made this TMTK piece for this kind of classic see-through plastic roofing that you get on these kinds of buildings, and that just adds this really nice element to it where you can sort of see, you can see the ride through the roof and you get a nice light in here. Yeah, cracking vibes. Very happy with how this came out. And then as for the ride itself, I should point out that Nitro made these, I mean, you saw it in the last episode, but Nitro made these really nice kind of reservoir system with the pumps and the pump house and these steps which lead up to this upper reservoir here. Nitro made all of that, and he made this cool water feature which runs from the upper reservoir down to the lower reservoir. Love all of that stuff. But yeah, as for the actual ride, then you kind of come up this first lift hill here, and then you come to this kind of rustic tunnel area, which I think, again, this would have been like repainted to match the theme of the ride. Originally, maybe there just wouldn't have been anything in here. I used to love this on the Alton Towers flume as well, where there were just these kind of tunnel sections that were these really cheap kind of wooden tunnel structures, which are just purely there for the novelty of like, oh, now we're in a tunnel. You know, the people would shout, we're in a tunnel. Woo! And yeah, again, this has just been very cheaply done up with some cogs, and you get splashed a bit from this pipe hanging from the ceiling. And then again, coming around here, we've got more wacky pipes, and these ones have got a little bit of a trigger, so this thing isn't going like constantly. So sometimes you can pass underneath it and you won't get wet, and sometimes you're going to get absolutely soaked. And then the ride comes up again to the topmost section here, and then you get the cool sort of split drop at the end. And again, we've got another little splash pipe here as you come around the last turn on the ride. One more opportunity just to get the riders absolutely drenched. And this one's not on a trigger, so you are going to get drenched by that. One other cool little detail that Nitro's put in is these little kind of operator stations at the tops of all the lift hills. You've got them, the one over here, one over here, and one over here. And that's just a really cool little detail that we both spotted on the coal cracker POVs. So yeah, all in all, it's a really fun mix of kind of like old and new, and of course, massive shout outs to Nitro once again for all his help with putting that log flume together. He absolutely killed it, and yeah, as I said, I'm just dead chuffed with how that's come out. Okay, moving on. Not a great deal has changed around here. We've got a new little sort of shaded cover picnic area on the right here, just to extend off from the ice cream store, and this new cafe on the left here, the Skyway Cafe. I'd been feeling that I just needed a building on this side over here because it was feeling a little bit empty. So I've brought in this building here. This is actually a retrofitted building that I built for an old project, and I just brought it in and scaled it down a little bit. And yeah, I think it fits really nicely in this area, goes with the theme, and yeah, not much more to say about that really. And as we continue around this way, the next big thing that we're going to look at today is the woodie, which has now got a name. It is called Kestrel, and this ride was kind of heavily inspired by Holiday World's woodies, especially the station. It's kind of a little bit of a mix of the Raven mixed with Legend, and I wanted to kind of go for that sort of like boxy, theme parky looking station building, and I really like how it's kind of up on this hill. This tower up on the hill creates a really cool sort of sight line as you're coming around the corner here, and this queue line for this ride was an absolute pain in the ass, it has to be said. Building on slopes is a nightmare, but it does look very cool when you've got this kind of path winding up the slope here and then doubling back on itself. And yeah, you kind of just wind your way up the steps here into the station proper, and inside the station it's very simple wooden station sort of situation. The name Kestrel was partly because the ride was sort of inspired by the Raven, so I wanted to kind of give a nod to that. So I was just googling for like birds birds that are native to Pennsylvania, cool birds that are native to Pennsylvania, I should say. And I saw Kestrel on the list, and that made me think, oh, that's kind of cool, because when I was at school, at least at the first secondary school I went to, or high school for the Americans, that school had like, it was split up into houses, so, you know, there were like 4 houses, and the house I was in was called Kestrels. So I saw Kestrels on the list, and I was like, well, that seems fitting. Kestrels are cool. And the American Kestrel actually has this kind of really nice orangey yellow colour to it, so I thought that'd be nice for the train. And then yeah, as for the ride itself, obviously I showed it to you last time. I want the support to look like the kind of classic CCI metal support structure, but obviously I did not want to completely custom support the entire structure. You have to settle for the way that Planet Coaster does things, so you've got the kind of like the walkways and the upper parts of this railing are the same colour as the main support structure, so it's all kind of grey to give the metal impression, which is unideal, obviously, in a perfect world. The walkway and the track and this banister here and these verticals from like here upwards would all be the kind of wood colour. But I think for the effect that I wanted, it totally works. especially when you're not kind of up super close to it. And then yeah, for the layout itself, you know, you get this big airtime hill which goes into a nice turnaround, and then you come back on yourself through it all sort of follows the terrain through the valley here, comes back around, whips around to the left here, you get a little double up, little turnaround up over here, then you get this turn here where you get a nice steep banking, last little airtime hill underneath the lift hill here, and then yeah, back around into the station. It's pretty simple. I will chuck a POV in at the end, and I'm sure many people will roast in the comments. As I said in the last episode, I may come back and tinker with this a little bit, especially in the smoothing in a couple of places is not completely ideal. I think for a coaster that I built, I'm pretty chuffed with it. I think it looks pretty nice on the skyline. I'm pretty chuffed with it, and I think I'm happy to call it good enough. So yeah, that's basically everything we've got to look at today. As I said, it's not quite as much as we've had in previous episodes maybe, but in the name of getting things out kind of quickly before Planet Coaster 2, this is what it's going to be like going forward. And as I said last time, plan for next time, we're going to have this Pinfari in over here, and then there's another coaster that's going to be coming in over this side, which is being worked on by Kinderly. I believe he's pretty much almost finished with that, so maybe that'll be in the next episode, not entirely sure. We've still got a few weeks left, so it's not a major rush. I can work on this Pinfari and whatever else is going to be in this little area here in the meantime. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure as always to have you. Thank you so much again for the support on all the episodes, and I will catch you next time. Bye!